Hi, this is Dr. Cyril Kadam, and I am a holistic health practitioner. Currently doing this type of a medical practice in Thane, Maharashtra, Pune, Nasik, in India. And I've been also exposed to the other aspects of medicine that is today's in vogue, allopathic medicine, both in terms of clinical practice, methodologies and treatments at the same time, the therapeutic efficiencies and the statistics around the illnesses. So to talk about me, I've been a graduate in Ayurveda, post which I've done certain certification programs. One is related to neuroscience. The second one is obviously related to my psychology aspect, which is very close to me. And then with my career, whatever happens, I have done certain programs related to management and certain programs related to quality management, strategic quality management. And I've been into US, UK healthcare backend programs, managing quality, learning and development, and business excellence, handling worldwide teams for multinationals based in those respective countries. I've been here talking today to initiate a series of talks, primarily on Ayurveda. Okay, so why Ayurveda? The first question. And second, why you? And third, what are you going to talk about? So why Ayurveda? Because today what we've seen, especially what has been realized after the recent pandemics, is you need certain element of immunity which is going to support you, and you also need to be more focused on preventive medicine than face a situation which is critical and then run helter-skelter for saving your lives in ICUs. All of which is what the purpose of Ayurveda is, which is in Sanskrit obviously, because that is the language that which existed during the time when that culture developed this science, which is ancient Indian culture. So it says swasthya rakshanam, which says the people who are fit, healthy. The intention of Ayurveda is to keep them healthy all through. In the second line of that word says, Aturasya vikara prashamanam cha, which says Atur means person who is ill. Vikar is the illness. Prashamanam is to treat it. So obviously the meaning is understood to you. So the primary intention of this science is preventive medicine. You need to prevent diseases. Now, but there are so many questions around this science. Okay, the first question is, it is very slow in showing results. Second is, does it show results? Third, is it a science in the first place? Is there documentation? Fifth is, how do we trust it? And the last is, can I use it now? Well, I want to address all of this, but we may go step by step, or probably as and when the sequel around the first question arises, we will take the next one. Yes, it is a science. How do you say it's a science? Because the logic around which this whole system of medicine is built is pretty strong. You can have an analogy to the way Sanskrit has, or to the way the grammar of Sanskrit is composed. Mind you, it's not Panini. Panini has just composed it. Okay, so it's been there, but you don't have one person who has contributed. It's many multiple people who have contributed, put together by one person. So it's composed by Panini. And then it seems that even the modern scientific aspects have also accepted that one of the most robust grammar methodologies in compiling a language is Sanskrit. Similarly, the basic tenets of this science, Ayurveda, are very, 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 very simple, and they relate to the cosmos. Okay, so it's such a fantastic thing, not just to realize now, but to even have been thought about at that particular time when you did not have so much of aids, technical devices at your assistance. What does it say? It says Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and it talks about the homeostatic properties of every particular matter which is existent in this visible universe. That's what Ayurveda. And do we see that now? Yes, we are seeing that life is not what you are. A human being or a Homo sapien is not what you are or what is visible. So the modern diagnostic tools have told us that there are millions of bacteria on your skin, in your nasal mucosa, in your oral mucosa, and all throughout your gut, which outnumber your actual cells. And this community of multiple bacteria, fungi, and viruses, along with the human cells, is what is called as human being. They staying together in a homogenized environment where you need that homeostasis, and whenever there is no homeostasis, that's the time you need to be suffering from a disease, which is what is the basic assumption of Ayurveda. And that's the reason it's a holistic science. Where do you get these references? Okay. Now this, as I said, Sanskrit as well. So this science also has been compiled because at that time you did not have writing technologies. You did not have the discovery of paper, and it was most of the time oral. So you had people or students who used to learn this in an oral manner and keep it in their brains, in their memories, in their neural circuits by the oral method, that is to by heart it and recite it. So most of the time it is in verses, not most of the time, all of the time it is in verses. And it is percolated through various sciences. So there was no one particular matter or one particular book you pick up and you get these things together. So earlier it was the Vedas. So the Vedas are one of the group of books which talk about the philosophy of life, which is the ancient oriental part of it. So you have these 4 Veds, out of which the Rig Veda is one of the oldest ones. So you have close to 67 mentions of herbal treatment sources. Then you have Atharva Veda, and then you have Yajurveda. Samveda probably does not have much. Atharva Veda has the maximal. It's around 293 plant descriptions, which are useful for therapies. And Yajurveda around 80-81. So only these 3 are not the sources of Ayurveda. And what I'm trying to say here is, it is that old a civilization, and that old a form of science the civilization had adopted and evolved. Primarily, during that time, whatever societies existed, we had most of the time been worshipping the elements of nature. Okay. And if you see the traditional medicines across various other cultures as well, so they have the same humors. So the Greek philosophy and the Greek medicine also talks about the humors which Ayurveda talks about. Right? So there is a fire element, and there is a water element. Likewise, you have 3 basic humors which actually form the human body. Similar type of an approach is seen in other traditional medicine as well. What has happened is, over a period of time, as there was an evolution in Homo sapiens, and because of we changing from hunter-gatherers to settlers, and then to agriculturists, and then to industrialists, with the urbanization, the requirement of health maintenance changed, the type of disease patterns changed. With urbanization, the impact of these industries changed the continuous interaction between the animals, plants, that is flora and fauna, with the other parts of the ecosystem. That gave rise to a completely different compendium, right? So the requirement to study gave rise to something what is called as the molecular or the biomolecular approach towards medicine, which is the reductionist approach. Prior to that, you didn't have a need to do that reductionist approach. But at the same time, it was some output of the industrial revolution. Okay, that is, you find the causal factor and then address one causal factor to get a rectification. That's what is modern medicine. There is allopathy. Very evolved science. It's a need of the earth. It is something which is very essential. Healthcare needs a combination of this approach plus a holism. So Ayurveda is something which is talking about preventive medicine, something which is talking about treating disorders. Along with that, you have modern medicine. So that needs to be a coupling there. Now, where do you have this thing documented? So you have this thing documented in various different shastras. It is an extraction of various shastras in the Vedic culture. So the first shastra which has a huge influence is the Darshan Shastra. Out of these 6 darshans, you have Sankhya Darshan, which has influenced Ayurveda the most. Then you also have the approach which is molecular approach. So during that time, the people around the Sabhimalan terrain, they did have the concept of an atom and whatever. You call it atom today, but at that time it was called as an anu. Okay. So there was a Maharshi which was who had a name of Kanad. He was a proponent of that. So that's it was probably the earliest origin of a reductionist approach. And then you have Yoga Darshan. So Yoga Darshan is also one of the sciences towards life. Yoga is not posture. Yoga is not back pain. Yoga is not facial yoga. Yoga is not restorative yoga. Please don't use the term yoga very loosely. Yoga is a science of life. How do you lead a life to attain the cause of life? That is to attain a liberation. So there are various steps, methods, ways to which you can lead that life so that you can attain that salvation, attain that unison with the basic understanding of what are the causes of life. Okay. One of those steps, okay, so you have chronological step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as described by Patanjali, is asanas, which comes at level number 3. Before going to level number 3, you have to have your mind ready for going to that state. So that's one of the very important aspects of Indian philosophy, that life is a combination of mind and body. So you talk about the coplanar aspect of mental and physical existences of a human being. You don't have them separate. Mind you, this is a very important assumption of Ayurveda. Not an assumption, but it is one of the basic pillars of Ayurveda. It is a combination of both. That is what comes from the Darshan Shastra called Sankhya. Okay, there is something called the Chovis or 24 principled human being. So those 24 principles have a certain levels through which there is an evolvement of a human being. Now this, whatever you see today, I'm not saying it is bad, or let's do everything which is useful for us, okay, something which is shortcut, but let's understand the real meaning of it. Okay, yoga is not for correcting your sciatica. Yeah, yoga can correct sciatica, but the intention of yoga is something different. Prior to which you prior to going to the physical aspect, you have to go to the mental aspect, so which is called the yam niyam. Okay, so first, we need to go through that, and then it's similar to a Christian guy going into a church and then being very courteous and offering things in the church during the mass, and coming outside, and the first thing that he wants to do is abuse some people on the road while driving, right? Or similar thing happens in other believers. So that's not what the intention. First, make sure that your mind is ready to accept the way of life to become a yogi. To a certain level, not to an extent of going to Dhyan Dharana and Samadhi. So Samadhi is the ultimate thing. Not every person is meant to go through that. Okay. So this ancient Vedic wisdom is compiled, or the compendium of all of this is called the Ayurveda. It is primarily divided into two things. One is, how do you live your life to not have a disease? And second is, if you happen to have a disease, how do you treat that? So lifestyle carries a huge amount of importance in Ayurveda. Your diet is something which is the topmost thing in Ayurveda. Your diet and your lifestyle. Now that's something which is up and happening now these days, right? So you have the circadian rhythm, you have what comes in is what you are, okay? All these things are happening around. That's the reason that you are in a position to take these Ayurvedic medicines and see the bump in immunity and the bump in your mental strength without having adverse effects. Now this tag adverse effects has been there for long with Ayurveda, but maybe we should not be very loose in using it. Anything which is not required by the body, when you put it inside, it will give some adverse effect. Like for example, you have something related to one of the humors called Pitta, and then you give a treatment related to Vata, another humor. Yeah, it will flare it up, and probably it will give some other things. If you want Pitta to be calm down, you give something which is aggravating Pitta, you will have an adverse effect, right? Okay, so adverse effect, you should not use it so loosely. But yes, if given the right treatment in the right time, at the right time, with the right diet and the right vihar, which is the lifestyle, you will not see adverse effects which are fatal. That's what it means. The next question, huge question, is Ayurveda needs time, a lot amount of time. No, it does not. It does not. So gone are those days when people used to have experiences where today you take a medicine and you see some effect after 15 days, 30 days, 2 months. You use the right prescriptions, you use the right person to get those prescriptions, you see immediate effect as well. Now there are certain diseases which have some disease complexes which will be hard to reverse. It needs a metabolic correction. It needs detoxification. In that case, obviously it will take some time. But symptomatic relief you can see many cases which is immediate. Okay. So yes, you don't need time all the time for all the diseases to see a therapeutic effect. Is it something which is documented? I told you, yes, it is documented. It is documented in various shastras. The Darshan Shastras, the Yoga Shastra by Patanjali, the Vedas, okay, and something which is written down by as commentaries as well as explanations by various clinicians at that time. So you have Sahitas, okay, compilations done by noted physicians at that time like Charak, Vagpat, Sushruta, Chakrapani, right? These are all people who have contributed by putting it down and explaining it to the people who are the students. Right? And this is what are the textbooks which today's graduates usually get. One thing for sure is this is something which is holistic. It does not actually fit into the study pattern or the sort of theory of knowledge which is being taught in school. So the moment anyone who comes out of the school and then goes for Ayurveda, he is the perfect candidate to not learn Ayurveda. He is the perfect candidate to not understand Ayurveda. That's the reason probably you may have some valid comments by saying there's no difference, or relief is less, or you need more time, or whatever you call XYZ. So it's a holistic science with some requirement of deep understanding of other abstract ideas as well of life. So it needs an understanding of darshan shastras. It needs, so does it not take into consideration the physical aspect? Yes, it does. So you have all the mentions of all the body parts, all the dissections and surgical approaches. So Shrut is one who is considered as the father of surgery. He did laparotomies, so many things. Leaving that apart, we are not here to justify anything. What I am trying to say here is, yes, it was a combined approach, and yes, it is documented. The next question is, were RCTs or random clinical trials done at that time? I don't know. No one has told me that, or there is no physical evidence. Looking at the way the drug formulary is there today, as it is today in Ayurveda, there has to be a more deep evaluation method of each drug, because each drug is classified based on 6 different qualities. And for each drug, if you have 6 qualities, they are tried and tested over so many. So it's something like, trial and error which was done, is what my understanding and belief is, on multiple conditions based on the 6 qualities. And then there was a rule out thing. We later on gave you a filtered output of these are the drugs that are supposed to be used in this group of conditions and applicable to this type of persona. So there is a persona component. Now this component of persona, which is called as prakriti, is very vital, because that's what says that every animate and inanimate object in this world is based on 5, or it is made up of 5 basic elements, which is called the Panchamabhuta. And that's the reason you have minerals which are included in Ayurvedic medicine. You have herbal drugs, you have oils, which actually helps in understanding about this relationship between particulate matter, visible as well as non-visible. So yes, it is documented, yes, it shows results, yes, it shows quick results as well, if done in the right manner. Yes, we need to use it now, because we need preventive medicine the most in these days, when our immunity is challenged by the change in the ecosystem that we have done ourselves. Okay, so the term Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, okay, that has a huge impact, and it's something which is a very important thing in Ayurvedic science as well. So whatever you have, your body has. So you have so many bacteria within you, fungi, viruses, along with your own cells. They are interacting with other bacteria outside. Then the temperature conditions. So you have that temperature, pressure, gradients all throughout. You have STPs, NTPs. There is no STP, NTP here. There is whatever is the actual, you are interacting with that. That is called homeostasis. And Ayurveda works at the homeostatic correction through the channels of the cells. Okay, through the channels of the cells, through the microtubules of cells, through the pumping system of the cells, which is the give and take mechanism in between and outside of the cell. That's the reason why Panchakarma actually corrects the whole body system and does the detoxification at a cellular level. And it also helps in, that we'll talk later as well, it also helps in changing or resetting your microbiome in such a manner that you and probably you'll be having a better homeostatic control with the existing ecosystem. You will not have diseases. So that's what is Ayurveda per my understanding. Okay, I'll keep on meeting you and talk more about and go in more depth about each of the things that I mentioned today, so that at the fag end of my series of discussions, I would like to elaborate on these to such an extent that the listeners and the viewers should be able to synthesize that this is a science applicable at various stages and various conditions in life, and it is a science which talks about holism, mind and body continuum, where you don't have a component where psycho somatic concerns will not be addressed. So just yesterday I had a patient which says 6 years he's been running helter and skelter around an abdominal pain, which topmost people in my region have seen, the GI gastroenterologist, and they said you'll have to look at this pain. He's currently on some meds. I said you finish that, we'll later on figure that out for you. So that's Ayurveda. And yes, it acts fast. Yes, with its limitations. So I end this today's session by taking the opportunity of saying this, that yes, we need it. We need it as a component of modern medicine, which is a form of integrative medicine. That is, you need the allopathic, the homeopathic, the Ayurveda, nature, most importantly nature. What does nature require? So all put together is medicine. There is no one element of medicine. I'd like your comments on what I discussed today. If you need anything very specific, do let me know in your comment section. I'd like to make separate videos on that, and hopefully we should interact more on this. Thanks for your time and watching this video. Bye.